the labels to the moment, good or bad or in between, whatever, we are going against the flow of consciousness. Consciousness is spontaneous. There is a spontaneity all the time. So that's why we need to break away from our habit of making the labels of good or bad or right or wrong. Because if you really look at it, all these are concepts at the mind level. You like something, you may like it, I may not. You may hate something, you may hate it, I may not. So it's all individual. And there is no really justification of saying what is good, what is bad. And ultimately it boils down to it's all material. And ultimately it just generates the concepts that our mind gets loaded, and it's anti-samadhi. So our mind gets tied up with the likes and dislikes all the time, and it prevents us going into the transcendental state. So that's why you need a really good awareness of the situation. So that's why Krishnamurti says choiceless awareness. To be aware is really to make every situation, and you are not just aware of the external situation, but how your mind, your body are reacting to the outside situation. And that you can do only when you step back.
Can you repeat that?
When you are aware of a situation, say you are influenced by somebody else's choices.
Okay.
And you are influenced by the people around you. It will be easy to blend in and do whatever everybody is doing so that you are comfortable, you are accepted, and you go on. But it may be 5 minutes or 2 hours or 5 hours. You did something without really being aware of it. But if you were totally aware of, you just observe the whole thing, what you are doing at this point. And I'm not saying whether you're doing right or wrong. That's not the point. The point is just be aware, and that awareness reveals a lot of information, and the awareness has to come at the spiritual level, because that's the basis of spirituality, to teach you. It's not just you as a mind-body complex, mind-body-spirit complex. You as a spiritual is separate than mind, body, and the external world. So you tie the whole pyramid of mind, body, and the outside world as a separate thing. And then you observe. So then your mind's reactions also become a thing to observe. So you are observing how you are reacting. And at that time, your total knowledge of your total background will come out and say, why am I doing this? Is there any purpose in doing this? Just because they are saying that? No, I'm not going to do that. So awareness brings you out of the situation. And you start reliving your freedom again. Because at the spiritual level, you're always free. Remember I told you, there was a story of Nagarjuna. He was a famous monk, a Buddhist monk. And one guy came in and he said that I am a master thief, and he wanted to give up his business of stealing things, but he could not. So Nagarjuna says, he comes to Nagarjuna, he says, how do I do this? Everybody says that just give it up, it's bad for you, this and that. So Nagarjuna says, I'm not saying it's bad for you. They don't know what they're talking about. It's your livelihood, you do whatever you have to do, just do it. So then he says, how am I going to give it up? So he says, you do it with awareness. He says, what do you mean? He says, whenever you go and steal it, just observe everything. He says, that's all I have to do? He says, yes. So 2 weeks later, the guy comes. He says, you cheated me. He says, why? He says, because every time I tried to steal something and I started observing myself, I couldn't do it.
Why?
Because at the awareness level, he knows that these things are bad. Right? At the awareness level, he was seeing that I'm doing something, so he could not do it. But if I become unaware and do it and walk away, I could do it. But you said that I have to be aware of every single thing. And I could not do it at the awareness level. And I'm talking about awareness is a full awareness of, and that's what it comes with the practice. Is where external situations do not dictate you anymore, but full awareness. And that's what we do in meditation. That's what we do, right? So we are being fully aware of all the thoughts passing in front of you, and as if you have nothing to do with it. At that level, you don't have any desires, because desire itself is a thought. So at the observation level, he could not
That's true.
steal.
That's true.
The same thing comes, with the karma theory. People are bogged, continuously with the thinking that I have bad karmas, good karmas. So we talked about that. So that again, it becomes a burden. But if you really practice a choiceless awareness, you did not have, at the time when you created bad karmas, you were unaware and you were under the influence of the material existence. So you could be pardoned, but at least that way you can have a fresh start. So that way you're burying the past and you synchronizing with the present. So we have to decide which way we want to step in the right direction. A lot of people think that, by keeping feet on both the sides, they're going to be okay. They keep on living their normal life. They wake up in the morning, do a little bit prayer here and there. They go to their business, they cheat people right and left, and they keep making money all day long. And then in the evening, they have a couple of glasses of wine, enjoy. On the weekend, they go to the temple. Their duties are over. And they tell the children the same thing, keep doing it, But when it comes to business, business is business. You have to make money, right? So keep doing all these things, and the children probably do the same or even better. They are even better than parents, so they keep doing it. So little by little, we break away. And we think that some of these days, we reach to the samadhi and keep donating a little bit money extra you made, that okay, donate to the temple. So our duties, dharma is over. So this way, it's never going to happen. You have to color yourself at the spiritual level, where your ultimate goal should be spiritual. And nobody's saying, stop, living the material life. You live the material life as a non-doer. And then the thing can go on. But at the spiritual level, you have to really have only one ultimate goal. Because ultimately, whatever is the final goal, the mind decides is the best thing to do, it will do. So you have to convince yourself that which way we want to go. And that comes only when the duality will stop, only when you get the fruits of non-dual existence. So whenever you meditate and you come face to face with the infinite, existence, that's when you realize that there is some other entity other than a dual existence. So that's what requires a practice. And then you have to develop a belief in it, and then you start dancing. And then little by little, the non-dual existence become part of your daily life also. Even though there is a duality around you, it becomes an expression of consciousness. Because there cannot be two things. There cannot be an infinite, non-dual existence and finite objects of the world. So infinite means infinite. There cannot be two things, right? So when you say that you want to color yourself at the spiritual level, is where your total involvement and total decision should be on one path. And commitment to go on that path will make you experiment different paths to really come up with different things, how you want to do, and advance yourself into that path. Even spending at least half an hour every day, an hour by yourself, among the woods, or doing something, just you're plain, walking every day. Just total, seclusion from the rest of the world also gives you little chance to deal with yourself in the mind level. And that also gives you another ways, and you come up with ideas how to progress further at the spiritual level. So at every single time, if you live at the bow level, like I said, you will appreciate every single breath you take, every single sip of water you take. So your every cell of your body has to be synchronized at the spiritual level. When they studied snakes, the snakes have no earpiece. But when they dissected the snake, they found out that it has a cochlear apparatus which collects the sound waves and transmits to the brain. So they could not figure it out how the snakes are listening. So they experimented with those flute players. So they made him, so they first thought that maybe the flute swinging around makes the snake dance. But that's not true either. They made the flute steady, and the sound just coming up, the snake were moving. So they could not figure it out for the longest time. It was a mystery for a while in the science.
Okay, I didn't know that either.
Yeah. So then they found out that snake has a capacity to palpate the vibrations of the air through its jawbone. So whenever it's doing the tongue in and out,
Right.
the tiny opening that opens the jaw temporarily, the sound waves get into that, the whole jaw apparatus
Becomes a ear.
becomes an ear for him. Yes. And then also, that's not the end. Then they found out that the vibratory cells were present in the lungs also. So every time it took a breath in, along with the breath, the sound waves were going into the lungs. The lungs were the snake's ears.
Oh.
And the cells which were present on the belly, which continuously on the ground, it picks up the vibrations from the ground also. And that's how also the snake listens to everything. So even without the ear pits, he was getting the full advantage of. So practically every single cell of a snake is listening. So that's how much we should be synchronizing.
So very sensitive.
Very sensitive. So we should eat spirituality, we should breathe spirituality, we should dream spirituality, we should talk about spirituality, we should think spirituality all the time, and then you reach to the Bhava Samadhi. And that's when the importance of these worldly things starts going down. And it comes out at a very subtle level. And a lot of times we do this unknowingly. We really, see somebody is progressing and this and that, and we get jealous. But that shows that for us, the importance of the material life is so much more important that the jealousy sneaks in, right? So when at the spiritual level, when you start having your realization of this, that point, it doesn't matter, because your race for material objectives is gone. At the spiritual level, your race of the material things just doesn't exist. So when you drop out of the race, it doesn't really matter. That's why I gave that example of Ramakrishna Paramahamsa, when he saw that kite moving around with a piece of meat. There were so many kites after him, right? And he keeps going. Everywhere it goes, it will go after them, try to bite it, take it back, this and that. So it turns out to be that the piece of meat falls. Either it falls or he give it up. As soon as that happens, all the kites are going after the piece of meat. And then that kite was comfortably sitting on the tree without any competition, without any fights, without any, it's total bliss. So the thing is that when we run out of the material, on the material objects, there's always going to be competition. There's always going to be jealousy. There's always going to be greed. There's always going to be insult, sufferings. He said this and they said that. And if at your spiritual level, it doesn't matter what you are, physically or materially, doesn't matter, then there is no insults either. So you have no superiority complex, you have no inferiority complex either, because at that level, you are just one infinite Paramatma. So it is very therapeutic to go towards the Samadhi. Because that is the only way to meet Paramatma, if you really think about it. Because Paramatma himself is formless, is Nirgun Nirakar. Now a lot of people says, how come I cannot see Paramatma? Even if you could see Paramatma, he said the people challenge, I cannot see, so I don't believe it. But even if, say, Paramatma was available in a physical form, at the physical form, there are limitations. No matter how much you love someone, right? Physically, there's always going to be separations, no matter how close you get. So even if Paramatma was available in a human form, he won't be good for us. Because remember, blending yourself with Paramatma is the only way to be Paramatma, right? And that can happen only at the spiritual level. So our total efforts should be at the spiritual level rather than a material level. So whatever we do at the material level, it has to be accompanied by the Bhava Samadhi. Otherwise, everything is useless. No matter how many times you go to the temples, no matter how many times you sing this song or this, and if Bhava is not there, it's totally useless.
Bhava means bhavana, right?
Bhavana, right, yeah. So inside motivations, inside bhavana, that's what I said, your synchronization with Paramatma should be 24/7. Meditation is just a 10-15 minutes of exercise. It is just a gateway to enter into the huge, vast field of spirituality. But that is just the tool. But ultimately, there is a lot more to life and spirituality than just that. So that's why the God is always there. He's always there waiting. It's just for us to make efforts to reach there.
We don't have time.
We don't have time.
Busy doing.
Yoga.
And the thing is that if we make efforts, it's not that He doesn't care either. Because if you really think about it, when you're so thirsty, you have traveled for a long distance and all of a sudden you see a freshwater lake and you want to drink. The meaning of the freshwater lake comes alive only when you drink. Otherwise it's useless. All the birds, all the animals are satisfying their thirst by drinking the fresh water. But if nobody was drinking, the purpose of the whole lake would be useless. So the same way, Paramatma is already there, is ready to offer to you as long as we make some effort to go towards Him. So death of an ego is the way to reach Samadhi. And our obsession with the body has to drop. Our identification with the body has to drop. Because the body is at the material plane. When we die and the fire destroys the body, but it can destroy only because fire is material, and material things, weapons of destruction, can work only on the matter. So out of our dual existence, which we can figure it out right now, that we are matter as well as spiritual, right? So the spiritual aspect can never be touched because it doesn't have shape, no size, no color, nothing, right? So what are we saving? We are trying to live this whole life to save this body, which is going to betray you at some point anyway. Time comes, the fire will just destroy it. But what would not be destroyed is the spiritual existence. So why not just spend time on that, right?
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
Business-wise, it's a good deal.
Business is business. I knew Sindhi. That's why I wanted.
Now he's convinced. Now he's convinced.
That's why I want Sindhis and Gujaratis in my lecture. The rest of the people are just additional. That's why I said all Gujaratis should be charged 1 penny for every thought they make, and then every Gujarati will be in Samadhi next time. Oh no, I can't do that.
There was one Sindhi, as a disciple.
Right.
So the other man was trying to sell him an elephant.
Right.
He said, this elephant, take it to this very cheap price. He said, but what will I do with elephant? I have to maintain. Okay, I'll give you in the same price too. Now you're talking. I want to. Now he has to maintain too,
So the material existence is flimsy, is changing, it's continuously gonna change all the time, and it's really the idea of possessing it. It's really a fake idea because ego generates that idea, and ego itself is fake because it really lives on something that's just so flimsy, and yet the ego lives forever. Surprising thing is that, as if there was a beautiful example in Vasishtha's yoga. He says that individual thoughts come and die, but the river of thoughts never dries out. It's continuously flowing.
Right.
And if you really look at it, it's like a piece of thread, right? Which is so flimsy, it can break at any minute. But bundle of threads makes a rope, and the rope exists forever.
Exactly.
And we are living this flimsy existence, flimsy way of life for all these lives, and we never get tired of it. It's really a surprising thing that how we've been going and we've been duped for all these years by Paramatma or whatever may be the case. So we have to come out of this illusion. The whole thing is a dream. And until we come out of it, we're never going to enjoy the freedom. So we are literally mesmerized by the material outlook.